Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. Music evolution gets me really excited. It's one of the main reasons that I do this because I want to affect where music is going and draw attention and appreciation to music that is on a new and awesome path. Y'all have been telling me that TesseracT is paving that path, so I'm going to listen to them now for the first time ever. Let's get to it. This feels like it's about to descend into some sort of chorus or pre-chorus. And before it gets there, I want to go back to the beginning and talk a little bit about first impressions. One of the things that I was immediately struck by with his voice is his ability to phrase and carry a legato line. He's singing through different notes, pitches that actually are a bit daring, I must say. And it feels so fluid. The way that he continues his line all the way until the end, almost even sending energy past the ending point of singing, it feels very classical in technique to me, which was surprising. But it's like the foundation is classical and he's put some sort of contemporary twist on top. Often I feel that what genre you're using in this style is more like the cherry on top. The foundation for all singing is essentially the same. You breathe in, you phonate, and then the shaping on top is really where you get a lot of style. And in his case, it sounds like that breath in and the phonation, the way that it continues and is supported till the very last moment, even almost beyond. It just feels like there's something super solid underneath all of the sounds he's making. Back to the beginning. I dig the ambiance. So those long held out notes, the sustained notes at the end, a lot of singers, I think, if they didn't have a really solid foundation underneath them, they would end up losing energy as that note continued. And he almost sounds like he gains energy, especially when he goes into vibrato. It's like I hear a certain extra beating that occurs. It's really exciting. I love how that swell gets into the music right away. So there have been a couple times now in this beginning where I hear it sounds like almost like grit or rasp that momentarily enters a tone and then he goes back to a totally clean sound. And I'm really curious where he's going to go with that. I know that this is progressive metal. I know that he's lauded as somebody who has a huge versatility with his voice. So that rasp feels like something that could go into an upper constriction, what some people will call a fry scream, but I don't know yet. Just wanted to let you know that initial texture, it gets my mind going and wondering. Okay, we'll keep going. Beautiful flip there. beautiful flip there. He goes into an upper register. I would call this, from a classical background, I would say that he flips into falsetto there. If you're from a contemporary background, you might argue that that's head voice. Doesn't really matter ultimately. We're both saying that he's flipping into an upper register that has more lightness in the tone and has required a switch in the muscle activation to make it occur. So good. So controlled. I gotta pause again. There's a lot to digest here vocally in this beginning. One of the things that is just super yummy are those layers. Ooh, I like those vocal layers. They feel new age, but at the same time, they've got some extra drive to them, which is fantastic. It reminds me a little bit of Sleep Token. I love those layers. Additionally, something that's really cool is all of this syncopation, this ba, 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 ba. That rhythm that he's singing on and accenting with a bunch of his consonants. He's really using those consonants to punch that rhythm out. It's a kind of thing that you'll see more in jazz or classical music. You don't typically see it in pop music where people are accenting like that. You can see it in things like R&B and rap where that rhythm is playing such a key element. But he's syncopating, meaning he's accenting beats that are not the foundational 1, 2, 3, 4. And so he's ba, 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 ba. You can hear that accenting clearly with the consonants. So I'm going to go back one more time. Pay attention to it. It's really awesome. I love that syncopation. Oh, you guys, I just realized the first time I stopped was right before he did that really cool vocal thing. And those of you that were in Premiere Live chat, you probably had a little heart attack at that moment. We're like, no, don't stop there. I'm so sorry. It's my first time. I didn't know that was about to happen. It definitely goes into a more operatic sound for it, but I gingerly use the word operatic here. What I'm saying is that the sound gets a little more roundness and it's going really into, I would consider this boldly falsetto for a classical musician. It's got that roundness and a little more dome, especially on the ooh, and then he shifts it forward to this brighter sound. It's as if he's playing between those two genres again. I hear lots of cross training in what he does. One more time from here. I love that chord change. It's like a countertenor. Also, I love seeing, obviously, this is not what the recording was made on, this music video. We're getting lip syncing at this point. He probably actually is truly singing this. That's just not the recording that we're hearing. And so I love seeing his mouth shape there. I do think he's actually singing this for the music video. And you can see just the way the different lips pull back with that that helps the sound to have a little more brightness. Changes the vowel too, of course, but makes that brightness present that we hear that shift in. Goes and the ooh, if you look back here, he's actually got not only in the lips, but I think there's a little more space in the mouth back there as well that helps create a little more of that sort of operatic sounding dome. And then a little more cheek lift with the as well brings it forward. It's amazing how the chord progression consistently seems to be hovering. I think that might go with this whole idea of sort of being in a spaceship that it hasn't landed anywhere. Right when we got right before that operatic more section, there was that chord shift that I loved so much. It felt like it evolved into something a little bit more major, but it still didn't feel completely grounded yet. We haven't ever had a chord progression that took us back to home zone. It's always hovering. It feels very elusive, I would say. Sometimes it's like, oh, maybe that's home, but not quite. Really interesting sounds there, I think, being developed. This, overall, I see a lot of similarity between Spirit Box and Tesseract right now. And the way that they're bringing a lot of electronic elements into the sound, especially a lot of ambiance. There's this psh, psh, psh kind of sound that's happening that's very high in the frequencies. That's where that same grit and a lot of the consonants, sort of that edge in the texture sometimes will happen up there in the frequencies. And I think it's so interesting that as that psh, psh was happening, he went into this really smooth vocal, which really can contrast that texture. Whoa. That was such a cool descent into the sound. I'm really, really digging the way they've weaved in the harsh vocals there. Also love the flash of the warning backwards in his helmet. So cool. The color changes, the screen bouncing, of course. All of that just worked. It worked. Woo. I'm gonna come back to a few things. I wanted to say something right before that section started, and then it happened, and I was like, well, there's no turning back now. It's back here. Oh, yes. Well, I'm so curious what his computer screen is saying there. It looks very purposeful, but it's gone by fast enough I didn't read it. There's this contrast that I'm seeing continually in the music so far of smooth and syncopated. Um, it He'll be singing that beautiful, smooth ahs and oohs, and the instruments will be syncopating at times. And if he's syncopating, sometimes we'll have a gorgeous melody in the instruments. It's a fascinating balance that I'm seeing in their music throughout. Really cool. So many rhythms in there. And I love the way that in this section, the lead vocal is a harsh vocal. And to me, it sounds like what I'll sometimes call a pure harsh vocal. I've been playing with some terms here, trying to figure out how to use words to describe the sounds we hear better. Ultimately, we have 10 billion different terms that have been flying around about harsh vocals, distortion, extreme vocals. Is that grit or is that fry? There are so many different terms, and none of them have been put together in some sort of dictionary, some sort of cohesive place where everything is beautifully outlined and clear to understand. So I've been starting to use this idea of a pure harsh vocal, meaning that it's just distortion that we're hearing. We don't really hear any sort of clean tone that's being produced underneath the sound. And by the way, I have seen, and in many different ways now, that you can have just clean vocals going wacka 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 with the true vocal folds, or just harsh vocals that are created with upper laryngeal structures, not the true vocal folds, and you can have a combination of them too. So to me, it sounds like there are several layers that are being added here, where you have a pure harsh vocal that is the central, the most forward one. And then those other layers, there are some that are, it sounds like true cleans as well. So just the true vocal folds creating some pitch. And then there might even be something in between. So many different layers, but I like the way that in those different layers, I feel like we can identify different laryngeal structures creating those sounds. Very, very cool blend. Man, that part hits really well. Oh, reprieve. And for some reason right there, I've got this feeling of an a cappella, almost like a barbershop quartet that came in and did a sort of lullaby for a moment. That's so beautiful and unexpected. Guys, I just wanted to point out something. I love it when I see this kind of thing where a bunch of people will play right here. I don't know what's coming up there, but I think it's gonna be epic. It's so beautiful. Wow. Yes. Yes. He's doing such a great job of essentially overlapping different registers here. And again, I'm using this as a way to describe when certain muscles are dominant in the sound creation, and a way to describe if the sound is thicker, heavier, or if it's lighter. Registers are areas of the voice that will share their adjacent pitches usually, though two registers can overlap in pitches, but a register is an adjacent area of pitches that share different tonal or timbral qualities. And then there's a muscle activation element in there as well, saying, is this muscle the dominant one, or is this one the dominant one in the sound creation? So when we have a TA or thyroretinoid dominant sound, it tends to be a heavier sound versus CT, cricothyroid. Then that tends to be a little bit lighter. And the way that he's negotiating in here, lightening things up and then leaning back into them and using it all as one big toolbox to create a gorgeous long phrase, it feels just like mastery of that technique. It's gorgeous. I love the extent up at the end too. Wow. Wow. It's so sensitive and tender, and then strong. So this high part, we have to talk about it a few different times here, okay? Maybe just, there's a, get to it. There we go. So there's an offset that he's doing that brings extra power and like a little jab essentially into the moment. So as he's going off of the sound, he actually creates an additional sound right there, a sort of offset that's very audible. Yeah, yeah, right? It's like adding an extra shadow vowel, but it's more than that. Yeah. There you go. And then the flip up. Whoa. This is glorious. Like, like so many goosebumps. Piloerection. This is my favorite word for goosebumps. Thank you, Sandra, for that amazing word. It actually brought my eyes to watering at one point. It's gorgeous. It makes my stomach rumble. There's so many different feelings from it. But I love that what's happening is I'm getting this overwhelming surge of emotion that is directly related to how well he can control his voice, how well the whole team has written this music. This is technique and amazing virtuosity. The reason you have it and the reason you should develop it is so that you can do something like this. But if you do this without the emotion flowing in as well, it's totally useless. You have to move somebody with music, I think. So I love the way that it's gone beyond great technique to just become great music. Let's come back to here. I understand why this is replayed so much. I love that, like, slide down. I love that slide down there. And I just have to say, the hover right before going into this pitch screen is glorious. God, that jump is amazing. It's over an octave. That's a huge jump that he just did up there, and it sounded so easy. But he's getting at one of the places that I find most intriguing about harsh vocals combined into other genres. He's really getting into it, and it's like my little nerd brain is like, what? Could it possibly? Could that? Anyhow, yes, it sounds like it can happen. So I mentioned earlier this sort of feeling of this dome and rounder sound here that's more operatic classical. I've been playing with harsh vocals in opera, trying to figure out like how does this work together? Because ultimately, when you're creating those sounds of distortion, sources of distortion in the upper vocal tract, it takes a vocal tract and it's narrowing it. These things are getting closer together so that they can actually have some sort of repetitive collision, which is what creates the sounds there. With opera, we tend to want a larger pharyngeal space. We have more space here to create a deeper marination of the sound. We have more dome, we have that soft palette up, it kind of like, oh, it goes back there. And it feels so opposite sometimes as when you would create distortion in the upper vocal tract. And then trying to figure out how can these two marry better. I haven't heard somebody that truly does the super deep kind of just operatic phonation with any sort of distortion that's in the upper vocal tract on there. But what he's doing is he shifts from that deeper sound, and I hear this shift forward. The timbre gets brighter. It sounds like the pharyngeal space is starting to close right before it goes into the distortion. It's really, really exciting. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sure that most of you are not nerding out as much as I am about this, but bear with me. We're going to go back a little further. Here we go.
On a distant street, before these walls surrounded me, made me
So before adding those harshes there, it sounded like it had more dome and then shifted forward. That partly is going to just be tongue position there. But that's a little example of how that sound shift I was talking about before bringing distortion on top. That's just a small example, like the tip of the iceberg. That's so good. So that sound up until there, that sound was so forward, meaning I definitely felt like I had less space here, that it was channeled here, and we've got that essentially fry is what most people will refer to that kind of distortion as, meaning in my mind, I just think upper laryngeal constriction is what's creating that sound. And so it's definitely brought way crazy forward. We don't have that massive domey, oh, kind of space going yet. But the pitch is so clear underneath there. I gotta say, some of the clearest pitching that I've heard underneath this kind of scream. And so he went into that more hooty kind of timbre for just a moment there. And then as he brought it back towards the scream, it sounded like, again, we shifted towards a more forward resonance. There's the shift forward, and then the scream. So good. I need to just go back to here. This has so much emotion and such an incredible sense of release. You've just gotten something out that has been pent up for years and has so much fear in coming out as well. It is intense. It's cathartic. Oh my gosh. So from this point, it's so intense, but they want to keep going up into intensity before it completely releases. And I think one of the ways that they do that is by adding more layers later. We introduce a new sound first, and then start layering that sound like crazy, essentially. And wow, the sound spreads so wide there. And there's your syncopation added as well. Wow. I love the acoustic textures they brought in here to wrap things up instead of just making it a fade. Oh. Wow. Congratulations to Daniel Tompkins and band members for really creating something that I do think is paving the path forward in music. It is a blend of sophistication and rawness. It is capturing into both my brain and my heart. I love that. And I want to go down that path. If you guys want to see some more music that I believe is paving our way to the future, you can check out this playlist over here, and may you fall more in love with music every day.